Alright, what's going on? So I've gone through a whole bunch of workout splits, and now I'm going to go through the main three things a lot of people neglect. Real quick, I gotta do a little wardrobe change because I'm about to get a little nerdy. Give me a second. Alright, now we're ready to get nerdy. So the main three things you need to keep in mind when you're training is you gotta sleep enough, you gotta eat enough, and you gotta train properly. So I'm gonna start off with sleeping. So when you're in the gym, you're not building muscle, you're breaking down the muscle, and you need to rest, you need to recover. And to do that, you need to get enough sleep. For adults, the range is around 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That's the recommended. But for teenagers, such as myself, you want to get over 9 hours, actually, from everything I've heard. So make sure you're sleeping enough, because that's when your muscles are growing. That's when you're recovering. It's when all that fun stuff's happening. Next is eating. Big thing. You can't out-train a bad diet. I would know. I have a horrible diet, and it shows, sadly. So protein, the big one, helps with building muscle. You want to have 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Now obviously if you're like obese or something, 400 pounds, you don't need 400 grams of protein. So what you're going to want to do is, I believe it's around 0.7 to 1 gram per centimeter of height, because obviously you don't need 400 grams of protein. It's just a lot. Next is carbohydrates, because protein's not just it. So these are just macros, by the way. I'll cover macronutrients and micronutrients in a different video. But carbohydrates, from all my research, it looks like you want to have around 2.5 grams of carbohydrates per pound of body weight. I think it's around 45 to 65% of your calories should be carbohydrates. And it's your main source of energy, you know? You want to go to the gym, you want to get big, you can't just have pre-workout, you can't just have caffeine, you need to, get all the stuff to get you energized. You also need to have fats. A lot of people are like, oh, fats are bad, blah, 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 blah. But you actually really need fats, because your body won't be able to control your hormones and shit properly if you don't have enough fats. The range is around 0.4 grams of fat per pound of body weight. And then moving on from all the macronutrients, depending on your goals, you need to choose how many calories you want to eat. That's a big one. So if you want to maximize growth, you probably want to bulk, and you want to be eating in a calorie surplus around an extra 500 calories above your maintenance. I'll put a link in the description for a maintenance calorie calculator. It's a website. If you're trying to maximize growth, you want to bulk, eat in a calorie surplus. If you want to lose fat really quickly, if you're just starting out, you're still going to build muscle no matter what, but it's called newbie gains. But if you just want to focus on losing fat, you want to be cutting, you want to be eating in a calorie deficit, I'd say start off around 200 calories under your maintenance, and then go from there. Keep doing that. Once the once the scale stops moving, you probably want to bump the calories a little lower. Keep in mind when you are doing that, you don't want to go too low on the body fat scale. If you're sub 10%, your hormones are going to get all wacky. The only time you should really be under there is if you're building up for a competition or something. And something I've heard of recently is main gaining, and it works mostly when you're new, especially when you got a little bit of chub there. Wish I had done that more. But just eat maintenance calories and just train. Find out your maintenance calories, eat it. I recommend using MyFitnessPal. That's the app I use to track my calories. It's got all the macros. It's got a whole bunch of recipes and stuff. Not sponsored or anything. I wish. You gotta make sure you have enough water. You want to be hydrated. I recommend a multivitamin. I got one right here. Works pretty well. And last but not least is training. So if you're just starting out, I'd recommend at least going to failure on your last set, if not all of them. Probably better if you go to failure on all of them, but at least go to failure on the last one. You also got to make sure you're not overtraining. So like some splits will be like, oh yeah, you got to do 4 sets of 15 reps. You don't need to do that. And the split will have like a whole bunch of the exercises hitting the same head. It'll be like, oh, you got to do curls and incline curls, and then you got to do cable incline curls. You don't need that. You're just hitting the same muscle multiple times, and you're going to end up overtraining. It's not going to help you at all. And you got to make sure you're hitting all the muscle groups. You don't want to be neglecting anything. I, especially at the start, I was only hitting chest and biceps. I was neglecting my shoulders. I was neglecting my back. I was neglecting my triceps, especially. My triceps are really underdeveloped. My abs are really underdeveloped because I wasn't training them properly. I was just doing those 5-minute home things where you'd do 5 minutes of crunches and then you'll be okay. You need to do a proper ab workout with hypertrophy and progressive overload. That's a big thing. You got to make sure you're progressive overloading. And lastly, you got to choose a split that works for you. If you can only go to the gym 3 times a week, maybe go full body. Choose a split that works for your time. Choose one that feels good. Just, personal preference. You're going to have to experiment a little bit. That's a big thing, is experimenting with what feels good, because what feels good for one person might not feel good for another person, For instance, I love doing curls. For some people, they don't really feel their biceps too much. I don't really know why. I feel it really well. But they only do incline curls, and that's just their personal preference. All the power to you. That was just an example, by the way. That's probably not really true, but, example. A little bonus thing, especially if you're just starting out, you could get some sort of pre-workout. I have a crappy $20 one from Safeway, C4 pre-workout. It's not very good. You don't want to go overboard on the caffeine because it is kind of dangerous once you get a little higher. If you're starting to have too much caffeine, I recommend only going up to 400 grams a day. Not 400 grams, 400 milligrams a day. You'd die if you had 400 grams. 400 milligrams a day, that's probably the safest you can do. One thing you got to be careful of is getting the itches with beta-alanine. I got some beta-alanine. Makes it feel itchy. You can also get some smelling salts. My friend Hayden gave me these. Love them. Kind of smell like cat piss just because of the ammonia, but you don't want to do them too often because apparently it's really bad for your nose. But if you're trying to go for a bench PR or something, you're trying to get yourself pumped up, get the adrenaline going, maybe try some smelling salts. It's just something that could help out. Just a little side tangent from the big 3. I figured I'd just add those in because I wasn't too sure what else to talk about, but I wanted to make sure I was putting out as much info as possible. Again, if I'm wrong about anything, please correct me. I would much rather you correct me than me just putting out false information on the internet. I tried to do my research on this, but again, mistakes do happen, so feel free to correct me. I'll put the link in the description for that maintenance calorie website. Have a nice day.